Main Event Madness proudly presents, coming to you from the land down under, Sydney, Australia, and Naugatuck, Connecticut in the US of A. This is Wrestling's Rope Break. Here are your hosts, Joel the Man O'Brien and Eron the Mastermind Ramadanov.
Well, hello wrestling fans and welcome to Wrestling's Rope Break. Everything pro wrestling by the count of 5. It is March 15th, 2015 here on Main Event Madness Radio. I am Joel the Man O'Brien coming to you like I always do from the land down under, Sydney, Australia. And joining us, as he does every single Thursday night, is my partner in crime, ProWrestlingPowerhouse.com's editor-in-chief, Eron, the Mastermind Ramadanov. And Eron, are you one of the apparent thousands that want WWE to give Divas a chance?
Of course. I think everyone's on that bandwagon of wanting to give Divas a chance, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we definitely want to see it happen sooner or later, and that's one of the topics that we're going to be discussing this week on Wrestling's Rope Break. In case you haven't been living under a rock for the last 2 weeks, hashtag Give Divas a Chance has been on the tip of everyone's tongues, and tonight we break down WWE's apparent follow-up on this Twitter sensation, how they can improve on it, and whether or not female pro wrestling will ever return to the prominence that was existing in the early 2000s. Alex Riley has taken a step from being a lowly commentator on NXT, and now he's involved in one of the best storylines going in WWE television. How is that possible, considering Riley's near useless career thus far? What can we learn from it? Answers to these questions are upcoming. Plus, we've got our Quintessential Podcast starring Terry Funk, the bi-weekly Video Vault Visit match, Mania Weekend updates, plus so much more. But before we get into this week's hot topics, I need to just get something off my chest. Now, for those who follow us on Twitter, I went on a bit of a tirade about last Monday night's Raw. And I know it's kind of old news. We're listening to the show on Sunday this week instead of Thursday, and it's a bit of old news, but I need to get this off my chest. I've been a fan for 20 years, and I'm used to seeing the best that WWE can offer from the Royal Rumble to WrestleMania. And it's always the top-notch storytelling every single year. There's always something that draws me in. There's always something that makes me remind me that I'm a WWE fan and a pro wrestling fan to boot. Last Monday night on Raw, I witnessed some just atrocious television. It would be okay if it was, just one-off show and it was in the middle of like a lead up to a B-grade pay-per-view, but this is Wrestle freaking Mania. Now, I've been through so many different shows, and this is Eron. He's gonna have to let me just go here. All right. First of all, we start with the IC Championship, right? I've heard people say, "Oh, it's great that they're chasing after the IC Championship, and that all these eyes are on it, and all these competitors want it." But what the hell is going on? Why are all these low grade talents just exchanging wins and losses like nothing matters, so no one gets over? But they're trying to steal a championship to boot. Why? All these logical babyfaces like Daniel Bryan, like Dolph Ziggler, are now just suddenly stealing Wade Barrett's Intercontinental Championship. Why?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm a little less angry about this certain aspect of Raw because I actually thought it was, a nice little segment. And I liked how they transitioned into a couple different matches, and it kind of kept everything as condensed as possible. But, I do get your frustration. I get the idea that, it's kind of just been, you've alluded to it 100 times, with the even Steven booking where, this guy gets pinned, well, he'll pin that guy next week. And, but I'm not as critical about it. I think it was a nice little interesting segment. And I like that they're kind of throwing all these guys into this mix that usually wouldn't be on the show. Hence Stardust, R-Truth, who are both, solid workers and deserve a spot at WrestleMania.
And Stardust, right? Okay, so Stardust is now in a ladder match on WrestleMania for the Intercontinental Championship, right? He's thrown his hat into the mix, and now he's a part of the match. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Goldust beat Stardust at Fastlane? And he's the one that's off television? And Stardust, the loser, is the one that's got the Intercontinental Championship match, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. I just wanted to double check that. So then we move on to the Brock Lesnar segment, right? Okay. And everyone loved the Brock Lesnar segment. The Paul Heyman promo was amazing. Okay. Maybe the part of the problem is that Paul Heyman's so good at promoting Brock Lesnar that everyone's forgetting about Roman Reigns to a degree. And like Brock was cheered in all the segments involving where Paul Heyman put him over. And at the same time, at the end of this massive burial of Roman Reigns and the glorification of Brock Lesnar, where was Roman Reigns? Where was Roman Reigns' rebuttal to this on Raw? He just stayed in the back. He was in the building because we know that because he participated. Did he participate in the main event?
Yeah, he was the main event.
This is the main event of WrestleMania. I mean, like, look at Rock versus Austin at WrestleMania 15. Rock and Austin versus each other at WrestleMania 17. Did they not even confront each other face to face? They just avoided each other before the big dance? No. They got into each other's face. They told each other, like, face to face what they're going to do to each other at WrestleMania. Like, they have dropped the ball on Roman Reigns to the absolute nth degree, to the point where, like, having Mark Henry return on SmackDown this week and having Roman Reigns spear him through a guardrail isn't going to change my perspective on Roman Reigns' drawing power at WrestleMania level. And the fact that they're just avoiding this kind of confrontation where he can show his anger and show his need to beat Brock Lesnar, you're just absolutely shooting him in the foot again. And I like Roman Reigns, and I want to see him succeed, but this booking. And in the main event, I'm sorry, Aaron, I got to get this off my chest. It's been boiling up over a week. I was going to do it on Thursday, but on Sunday, I needed to get it out. This main event, right? He is an absolute afterthought to Randy Orton and Seth Rollins issue. Are Seth Rollins and Randy Orton main eventing WrestleMania? No. They don't even have a match on WrestleMania yet. And Roman Reigns is just a guy in a handicap match that happened to win thanks to miscommunication between tag team partners. Oh, whoop-de-doo. Great. You know? Like, and all that great post-match stuff they did last week with the spear in midair on Rollins and taking out the Authority, that did a whole lot of good because when he came out through that crowd, the crowd was just neutral. They didn't boo. They didn't cheer. They just, yay. They kind of just slightly cheered.
Well, and you kind of alluded to the fact that it's not really being treated as a main event. You know, you've got Reigns where, like you said, he didn't even come out and confront Brock Lesnar, which should have been the move there. You know, if Lesnar and Heyman are out there bashing you, you'd think he'd come out to go after him and maybe even attack him or who knows. Exactly. And when you think about Raw, you think about Lesnar being cheered and Roman Reigns is featured in a main event where he becomes an afterthought, like you said.
Yes.
Makes almost no sense. It's almost It should be the other way around, or it shouldn't be at all. I mean, I was a little angry about them not even making any kind of contact or having any kind of confrontation.
Yes.
When we're 2 weeks away from WrestleMania. So
something.
Yeah.
If I was booking this, I'd have Roman Reigns just lay out Brock. Why not? Have him get face to face. Have Brock Lesnar trying to make Reigns flinch and he doesn't. You know, have something where we think, oh, Roman Reigns can actually beat Brock Lesnar. There was a great memes that someone made up that I saw during the week. And the point of the memes is that in that triple threat WWE Championship match at the Royal Rumble, they pulled out all the stops to make sure that it looked like Brock Lesnar looked like an absolutely unstoppable beast. He got hit by everyone's finisher multiple times. He got put through a table. He got a broken rib and still won the match. He's beaten The Undertaker and he's beaten Brock Lesnar. And we're meant to think that a Superman punch and a spear is going to defeat Brock Lesnar. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I heard something that part of this angle that I guess is going to be coming the next 2 weeks and at WrestleMania is that considering Roman Reigns' finishing move is a spear, and they're going to bring back the Brock Lesnar broken rib angle, and they're going to say that that's part of the reason why he's going to lose at WrestleMania is because when Reigns hits that spear, he's going to be attacking the broken rib, and that's the thing that's going to, I guess, put Brock away. That's just something I heard over the last couple of weeks, which kind of makes sense. But like you said, though, this guy's been through everything at the Royal Rumble, so they're going to really have to convince me that the Reigns' spear is really that devastating.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. And just to wrap up my rant, I'm just going to pull out these little points. Like, Sting and Triple H, they don't even use Sting's real voice. Well, they use. I think apparently it was Sting's voice, but this monotone robotic voice. I mean, I said that Sting's promos are his best weapon, and I got this feeling that they're just going to keep doing these video packages, and that's the only time we're going to hear Sting talk, and that's completely missing the mark. I mean, Big Show and Kane. I'm sick of Stephanie McMahon being in a managerial position, and she just buries these giants that I've seen. I've seen Big Show beat Roman Reigns in a one-on-one match a few months ago. I've seen Kane be protected against matches against Ryback in a few weeks ago. They always have a habit of protecting Kane, protecting Big Show. What's the point of protecting these people when Stephanie McMahon just comes out and browbeats them and makes them look like absolute pussies?
Well, the thing is about that is, I don't even think they're being protected because they expect us to believe that just because Big Show and Kane are huge, that they're automatically, big time powerhouses of this company. I have no problem with them as performers. They're two of the greatest of all time when they were able to move around a little bit better. But if you're going to treat them like these two monsters that are the Authority's henchmen,
treat them like monsters.
You've got to treat them like monsters. Give them. As much as people would hate it, give them a match where they just destroy 4 guys, 4 jobbers. Just build them up somewhat instead of having Stephanie McMahon berate them in the middle of Raw.
Well, who gets over in that situation? Who benefits from Stephanie McMahon coming out and just because I think there was a stat that in the 10 altercations that Stephanie McMahon has had since she's moved into the authoritarian figure on Raw, she's only got her comeuppance twice, and one of those people was Vicky Guerrero, and she's not even with the company anymore. So what's the point if they're not going to pay off Stephanie McMahon not getting hers eventually? Then what's the point of all these burials that we see involving John Cena and Big Show and Kane? We're meant to be promoting our stars and making them look like people that we want to pay money to see. Having John Cena come out there and having Stephanie McMahon come out there and just absolutely berate him to the degree where we shouldn't even care about them and that WrestleMania can exist without John Cena. I'm sick and tired of this stuff. I'm going to stop there. WrestleMania will be a good show. Okay? It will be a good show. I guarantee you. I'll be there live. We're gonna be covering the whole show, the lead up to the show on Wrestling's Rope Break through our Twitter and our Facebook page. That's gonna be great. I'm looking forward to posting pictures, videos, and all that stuff. And we're gonna be there at WrestleMania Live, right? But I want the storylines to merit and complement what we're going to see at WrestleMania, because I've always said this from day one, ever since the end of WrestleMania 30. The talent pool right now is great. The wrestlers are the ladder match is going to be a spectacularly great match. The workers in there, the talent pool in there is going to be great. Taker and Bray is going to be great. Sting and Triple H should be a good match considering how good Triple H is. Reigns and Brock is going to be good for crowd reactions. We'll see what happens, but God damn it, after WrestleMania, I worry what this company is going to be like, to be honest.
I've said before that once Brock, and this all depends on if Brock stays or goes, but if he does go, I think a lot of people don't see that it actually might get better because they're going to be able to have a champion who's there every week in Roman Reigns or whoever they decide to go with, and we're going to finally see these feuds that we've been dying to see, like Reigns and Rollins if they decide to go that route, if they decide to go Bray Wyatt and Reigns, if they decide to go Ambrose and Reigns, or there's just so many different things you can do once you have the champion back on full-time TV. So I'm a little more optimistic than some after WrestleMania, and I'm actually really excited for WrestleMania. I'm excited for the matches. It's just WWE's build up to this show just hasn't been very great.
It's probably one of the worst WrestleMania build-ups I've experienced in a long, long time. And I've been watching wrestling for 20 years. I remember when I was a 20-year-old kid like you, Aaron. I always had an optimistic side to what I watched on television when it didn't really please me, and I was like, wait and see. And now that I'm 27, going on 28, I'm done waiting and seeing if they're going to improve things. And we'll see what happens after WrestleMania. I don't want to put a damper on it and be like every other podcast, but that Raw really got to me. But the one thing that was another kind of questionable thing that is the main focus of the show was give Divas a chance. Now, I love the idea of using social media to kind of get WWE to maybe change their ways and change how they promote some of their talent. And I like the idea of give Divas a chance. It gets people talking about what they would like to see in the Divas division, what can be improved. And WWE's response to this, Aaron, was to give us AJ and Paige versus the Bellas. Now, they've given this storyline a lot of time, but for the payoff to be a generic tag team divas match that we have seen in some way, shape, or form on television many, many, many times, doesn't sound like giving divas a chance. Now, what's your opinion on all this?
Man, it's tough. I don't know what to really think. I mean, like you said, we've seen this combination before, and they seem to always do this. I can't remember the last time they gave us a one-on-one divas match at WrestleMania. I really can't.
Neither can I.
The one doesn't come to mind, and I think, it has nothing to do with the divas on the main roster right now. And I forget who said it this past week, or I forget who I saw it from, but somebody said, everyone's excited for women like Charlotte to get up to the main roster, and Sasha Banks and Bayley and all these great wrestlers in NXT. But in reality, when they get up there, they're going to be handled just like Emma, just like Paige. They're going to be torn down to these non-characters who just either get put on Total Divas or they're not even referenced. And it has a lot to do, and has everything to do with the booking of one Vince McMahon. And I've said it before in columns and in reviews, once WWE starts to give them some time, we'll give them time on this show. And I'm not too optimistic about it, because I don't know if they'll ever, if the Divas will ever succeed under Vince McMahon in this leadership that they give these women, a couple minutes. And I mean, this past Monday Night on Raw, they gave them some time, which was nice, but the fans were not invested because there's nothing to be invested in. They haven't given us any backstory to this feud. For some reason, these four don't like each other. For what reason? There's no story. There's no substance. There's no content. And they expect us to get invested in this storyline when there's nothing to get invested in.
Well, there is some storyline. I mean, maybe like Paige has been bullied, and no, I'm not saying that's a good storyline. Don't get me wrong. Paige gets bullied. AJ comes back, and they have the generic tag team partners that don't really get along versus the established team that does get along. Okay, we've seen it many, many, many times before. Time is irrelevant when it comes to the Divas division. Like with the characters the way they are, and with the substance that is in the Divas division right now on the main roster. You keep feeding us 14-minute Divas matches, and they're going to be 14-minute long toilet breaks for the fans that are in the live arena. We've been conditioned many, many years in a row to see this division as just a nothing segment of the show. And more time's not going to change that. We need to start building these characters from the ground up and giving them credibility. And part of it's through the writing, but part of it's through the wrestling as well. And I would almost be happy to see a complete NXT overhaul and have the NXT stars with the NXT mentality go straight up to the main roster. Look at Trish Stratus. I mean, Trish Stratus has one of the greatest careers in the modern day WWE era when it comes to divas and where she came from. Like, she went from what we see now in WWE divas, just this generic stock, big breast, blonde haired valet that walked wrestlers down to the ring, and then she improved in her wrestling to the degree where she became a 6-time WWE Women's Champion, and now she wasn't just known for her looks and her beauty, but she was known to kick ass in the ring. She had hardcore matches against Victoria in 2002. She had crazy, deep, complex storylines with Mickie James leading up to WrestleMania 22. I want to see these kind of steps being taken with characters like Paige and like Bellas, and maybe here's a solution that you can kind of think of, Aaron, and comment on. AJ. Now, AJ, I heard a bit of a moan there. What, you don't like AJ?
Well, I don't know. I've written about it a couple times before, and a lot of people like her and think that she is the best diva in the last 10 years, and she's so revolutionary. And no offense, I like AJ. I like the character. I think she is probably one of the most prominent divas in the last couple of years, but that's not really saying much. And as far as her wrestling ability goes, it's not really that great. And I can, if you gave me a divas rankings and I had to rank all the divas on the WWE main roster based on wrestling ability alone, I don't know if she cracks my top 5. And that's saying a lot about the divas division as a whole. I think Alicia Fox is a much better wrestler than her. Mm-hmm. I think Paige is a much better wrestler than her. I think Natalya is by far. She's probably the best wrestler on that Divas roster.
Easy.
She probably
No
out-wrestles some of the men.
No brainer. Absolutely. Well, at the same time, I respect what you're saying, but AJ gets by far the most interactive response from the live crowd wherever she goes. Now, why is that? If we look at the way she's been brought up in the Divas division, she spent a lot of her time rubbing shoulders with established main event talent. She did a massive storyline with CM Punk, with Daniel Bryan, with Dolph Ziggler, with John Cena, rubbing shoulders with top tier talent, and then going back to the Divas division with that kind of steam has established her as a credible diva that's worth your time investing in, because she used that time to develop her character as the crazy kind of quirky yet unstable diva, right? Well, like John Cena and Nikki Bella are legitimately a relationship. Daniel Bryan and Brie Bella are married. The hottest Brie Bella was when she was associated with Daniel Bryan. And then she had an amazing rivalry with Stephanie McMahon leading into SummerSlam. Why not continue that rub and continue a cross-promotional type of booking with these divas and main event talent? Why not have... We've got so many beautiful divas that aren't being used. Have them accompany a Randy Orton level kind of superstar in WWE. And present them as meaningful characters.
And like you said, I think there's so many unused divas on the main roster.
So many.
Put them with somebody. Just hook them, make them a valet. Put them. How many managers are there right now? There's one prominent manager, and that's Paul Heyman. And there's Lana. She's the only valet we really see.
Yes, and Lana. She's easily one of the most popular divas in the company because she's associated. Because she's associated with the undefeated Rusev, who's feuding with who? John Cena. There you go.
There you go.
And that's why it works. So, let's interchange these divas and give them a chance by having them rub shoulders or run into, your Daniel Bryans, your Dolph Ziggler's, your Seth Rollins. Holy shit, have some segments where he comes out and berates a diva or something like that. God, two divas coming straight to mind. Stacy Keibler. She is in a relationship with Randy Orton. What happened? Because I just got done watching WrestleMania 21, and she was involved in the WrestleMania storyline with Randy Orton and The Undertaker because Randy Orton needs to completely focus on The Undertaker. And how did he do it? By ditching Stacy to the curve and RKOing her. Those kind of awesome. But those kind of interchangeable storylines kind of bring fresh eyes on a stale kind of product. And why does NXT work, Aaron?
Well, NXT works is because they give us content behind each character, and every character, and they give us good wrestling.
Yes. Yeah. They let them wrestle, and the end product of this whole thing is a Divas division on NXT that can be a semi-main, that can main event episodes of NXT television, and it can stand head and shoulders with Sami Zayn, with Kevin Owens, with Adrian Neville. These guys are like the cream of the crop when it comes to professional wrestlers. And the women are putting out four-way matches, they're putting out one-on-one matches that literally compete with the male wrestlers. It's incredible to think of in 2015. NXT is... the more I think about NXT every single day, it just drives me insane how the developmental territory is more popular and more... Well, not more popular, but more... full of substance than the main event roster. It just boggles my mind.
Yeah, and let's just play a little devil's advocate for people that maybe are listening and say, oh, well, it's not that easy, no one really cares for the divas anymore, and if you try anything, people won't care. There are so many different options you can go with right now as far as booking a main event storyline to going into WrestleMania.
Yes.
You can do so many things with these divas. It's just to name a couple, maybe, just off the top of my head.
Yep.
Do an NXT invasion angle. You can easily do something like that with the divas coming in.
Yes.
These young divas like Emma, like Paige. Have the veteran divas like AJ or something get a little jealous, and there's just a bunch of different stuff you can do, and
absolutely,
it's just WWE's lack of caring, and they don't see any investment in the divas. The only thing they see out of the divas is making that reality show. And that's it.
It's almost like a crying shame that Total Divas is as popular as it is on the E! Network because, to WWE right now, it's a proven formula that it works. like is working for them on the reality TV side. And I hear a lot of like people like old divas like Victoria and Melina that was on JR's podcast this week, kind of talking about how, it's such great exposure that the divas get a chance on Total Divas. All that happens on WWE television is that, yes, this woman's on Total Divas. We don't really follow up on how that I don't see how it benefits them, because like the storylines that happen aren't kind of like sequential, right? What happens on Total Divas isn't exactly what's happening on WWE television. It's like they're on two different worlds. So it's very weird how that works, but an NXT invasion could definitely work. Put the current WWE divas through this ringer where, like, hey, you go, NXT divas come up. You girls aren't wrestlers. This building was based on your Kurt Angles, your Chris Jerichos, your Eddie Guerreros, and now look at you girls. You're just eye candy walking around.
Here's one more thing. What happened recently that kind of generated this whole Give Divas a Chance thing? Stephanie McMahon and AJ Lee had a little Twitter confrontation. What is Stephanie McMahon right now? She is a heel. Yes. What is AJ Lee? A babyface.
Yes.
Why not use it? Use it. Have AJ cut this promo on Stephanie McMahon saying you're such a hypocrite. Give us, why aren't we giving the same amount of TV time? And use it going into WrestleMania or after. It's like, it's right there. Absolutely.
Yeah. Here we are within like 10 minutes of talking, and we've already got some great ideas that just have legs, and the ripple effect of storylines like that could definitely benefit the division for many years to come. But we'll just have to wait and see. But for the meantime, we are going to be seeing AJ Lee and Paige teaming up facing the Bellas. And
I guarantee you that there'll be some added stipulation where all the divas are involved, like a Lumberjill match or some kind of garbage. I can bet my house on it.
I'll bet my house on it too, because it just seems like multi-man matches are the flavor of the month when it comes to WrestleMania 31. Like, look, we've got a multi-man Andre the Giant Battle Royale. We've got a multi-man ladder match. We've got a multi-man tag team turmoil match. It looks like going to be set up on next week on Raw. Don't even get me started, Eron, on that stupid setup. Why not just have Kid and Cesaro versus the Usos? Pretty sure that they're the two top tag teams in the company right now, and that they can go. Give them 13 minutes.
And why are Los Matadores in this fray when the Ascension haven't lost yet, or they've lost once, or what?
And who do they lose to? Who did the Ascension lose to?
Primetime players.
And where are the primetime players? The winners.
I don't know. I haven't seen them in weeks.
Why aren't they in the match?
Oh my god.
See, exactly. See, this is what I'm dealing with now. You can't think about it too much, but we move on to something positive that's been happening right now in NXT. Alex Riley. Now, I was completely surprised to see Alex Riley kind of getting involved with Kevin Owens 2 weeks ago on NXT. But I have to say, the organic progression of that segment and the interaction between Owens and Riley was incredible. For those who don't know, Alex Riley was doing commentary. They have Kevin Owens guest star on the commentary team. And there was a confrontation between Alex Riley, talking about Sami Zayn. Riley, in a great line, just goes, Kev, no disrespect, but I'm a man, and I wouldn't treat my best friend like that, even in the spirit of competition. Awesome line. I'll give Kevin Owens all the credit in the world. The facials, the looks, the disgusted looks, the way he attacked Riley afterwards, fantastic. And I feel like Riley's reaction to this just felt so realistic and organic, and he followed this up on NXT with a pretty good showing and a pretty good promo that definitely shows legs. But why does this work, Eron? Why do I feel suddenly invested in a commentator competing against the NXT champion? It's unheard of when you think about it.
You're invested in it because, one, it's being associated with somebody who's red hot right now in Kevin Owens.
Yes.
2, Alex Riley's a good performer because we've seen him on WWE TV before when he was with The Miz. And the setup is just like you said. It was perfect. It came out of nowhere. It wasn't really – and it was surprising. And that's something that we lack a lot in today's wrestling era when we don't get surprised very often. And this was a surprising, nice little twist that Alex Riley now is going to be thrown into the competition as far as – NXT's concerned. And like you said, everything about Alex Riley was perfect on the episode where he had that first interaction with Kevin Owens. Owens handled it perfectly.
Yeah.
And I loved even the week after when Owens dumped the water on his head. Jason Albert contributed greatly to that segment when he was holding him back and whispering in his ear, "You have a mortgage, you have a family, think about what you're doing."
Yep.
Even William Regal backstage with Riley,
Regal.
cutting a great promo. Regal's he's just amazing. He really is. He's
Subtle,
so good.
subtle but amazing. Subtle but amazing is the best way to describe it. And I loved how they brought in, Regal being a commentator and how he got into a tussle with Cesaro and how he never wrestled again because of that. And really, like when you look at Riley and look what happened this week on NXT, you really see a kind of a parallel effect happening here because Owens has come out and said that you're an idiot for leaving your job, and when we finally wrestle, I'm going to end your career. And the only downside I guess I have for this is that it's great having Riley rub shoulders with Owens, but it definitely feels like Owens can't lose, and that at the end of the day, Kevin Owens is gonna stand tall. And I'm sure they could do a situation where Riley gets the ultimate rub and looks like he's about to beat the champion and all that stuff. And there's ways of doing it within the confines of the match, but at the end of the day, Riley will probably end up losing, and I that's the only downside I have for this. And I think someone that would be maybe at a different level, it's a little bit lower than Owens, might have been a good suitable kind of replacement in this kind of sense. But regardless, I think this is easily the most believable and the most organically natural kind of storyline that's going on right now.
The thing that I was kind of worried about, and I wrote a whole article on Pro Wrestling Powerhouse about this the other day, and it's, I laid out the options for Riley after this feud with Owens. Either he kind of moves past it and continues to wrestle on the roster, which is very slim, and I don't see that happening. Either he gets destroyed and we don't see him again, and he even leaves WWE, and who knows what he does after that, because he's had some problems with WWE. He started that whole hashtag Free Riley, to get released because he wants to wrestle again. It looks like they've kind of given him a chance now. Or he gets beaten and then just moves right back to the commentator table. So I don't see him going very far after this. I like Riley. I thought he was great with his feud with The Miz a couple years ago. And of course, that whole backstage incident, that rumored backstage incident with John Cena. We won't even discuss that because that's all rumor and speculation.
Ridiculous.
Who knows what happens with Alex Riley. I'm a big fan of him. I think he's got a great look, huge potential. And he looked great on NXT this past week. He really did.
Yeah, he looked very athletic for his size. Just mentioning that rivalry with The Miz. I mean, it did fizzle out by the end of it. But the initial breakup angle between Riley and Miz, I'll never forget that. It was one of the highlights of 2011. And NXT's got a lot of momentum, a lot of star power. But at the same time, you have to kind of worry about the star power becoming too great for the role that NXT is all about. And that's getting the new talent that needs to learn ready for the main event television. And Aaron, do you think we've got too many big stars, too many Kevin Owens, too many Adrian Nevilles on the show right at the moment?
I think it is time for some people to move up to the main roster, because I feel like, and me and Sam Thorne had a PWP Sam Thorne, another writer for Pro Wrestling Powerhouse. We had a nice conversation, and we put it up on the website as some kind of conversation piece between the two, where we kind of outlined that it almost feels like NXT is going in a different direction, and there's so many guys that need to be protected right now, as far as Baron Corbin and Solomon Crowe and Owens, and now with Riley coming back into the mix, he's going to have a couple squash matches. So it feels like they have so many guys to protect. Finn Balor, even he needs to be protected as the number one contender. They're building up Rhino, so there's so many guys that need to be protected right now that some guys just need to move up to the main roster, and I think that's going to come after WrestleMania. I think we'll see Neville possibly go up, and maybe some other guys. I have no idea, but I feel like there's just so many things going on right now. And Sam Thorne brought up the point that maybe they should consider doing a 2-hour show, and kind of upping the amount of time that NXT gets on the network, maybe 2 1-hour shows or 1 2-hour show, just because there's so much stuff going on right now that it's almost hard. it's all almost the same thing with Crow and everyone like that. So I don't know. What do you think? Do you think it's almost too crowded?
Yeah, I definitely feel it's much crowded than it was maybe 6 months ago. And for those who are interested in the article that Eron mentioned, I head over to facebook.com/wrestlingsropebreak. I posted it up there about a few days ago, and it's definitely an interesting kind of read on NXT and the state that the company is in at the moment. I definitely feel with the way it's structured at the moment that, yes, it is way too overpopulated, and that there's really not much breathing space for guys that don't have the credentials that Owens and Neville and Solomon Crow have. You know, what chance does a Jason Jordan and Ty Dillinger have to kind of like to really break away from the pack and light the fans on fire? I mean, in saying that, when I think about it straight off the bat, I mean, like, you do have much more of a receptive crowd and much more knowledgeable crowd in Full Sail. You know, it's their home brand, it's a home promotion that they could make a star on one night, very much like ECW did in the 90s. So there is that kind of breathing space. But yes, it is time to move some stars up to the top. And I think getting the championship off Sami Zayn, I think is a definite move maybe for him to move to the main roster. It's going to be very interesting to see who debuts on the Raw after WrestleMania. I mean, for the last 2 years, we've had some debuts. I think for the last 2 years, am I right? You had
Rusev this past year.
Did he? Ooh, hold on.
Page.
Did he debut on the Raw after WrestleMania 30?
I don't think the Raw immediately following, but I think we saw Paige debut that night, right?
Yes, that's right. So we had Paige debut that night, and then we had Rusev follow very soon after. We had a lot of vignettes for those as well. Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of movement, and I hope there is a lot of movement. But for the time being, guys that just are born and bred within the developmental system of WWE, you know, that didn't make their name on the indies too well. I mean, you kind of wonder where they're going to stand and how they're going to compete. But this is going to lead us into our commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to discuss the Quintessential Podcast for this week, involving Jim Ross, as usual, pretty much. We always love Jim Ross on the show, interviewing the one and only Terry Funk. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
WrestleMania weekend. Stick right here to Main Event Madness, WrestlingNewsReport.com, and Wrestling-News.net for your latest news, rumors, and results from everything happening WrestleMania week. Also, don't miss an exclusive 2015 Hall of Fame recap show and WrestleMania 31 postgame show. Our wrestling, your WrestleMania, simply madness. Spreaker.com/show/Main Event Madness will be the place to check these shows out.
Okay, we're back. Main Event Madness Radio, going to be doing a lot of live broadcasting from WrestleMania weekend in San Jose, California. We are less than 2 weeks away from that weekend starting. It all starts on Thursday. It goes all the way into Monday the next week. I tell you what, Wrestling's Rep Break is going to be representing all over San Jose, California. It all starts on Thursday. We've got Evolve 39. We're going to get Drew Gallows versus CJ Black, the former Justin Gabriel. We've got Chris Hero in that show. Johnny Gargano. Going to be an amazing show to start off the week. We're going to be doing a WrestleMania history episode on Thursday night, plus a wrap-up of all the day's events at WrestleMania weekend. Then we're going to move into Friday. Ring of Honor. We've got a double shot of pro wrestling happening on Friday night. Ring of Honor, the first half of Ring of Honor, Supercut of Honor 9, moving straight into the recently announced NXT live show. Oh my God. I'm going to be getting tickets for that. I'm so excited. I called Eron the minute I found out about the show. I've got my alarm set for 3 a.m. on Tuesday morning, ready to buy tickets. So I'm going to be front row watching Finn Balor, Adrian Neville, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn do what they do best and compete on WrestleMania weekend. So expect a full rundown of that show. Moving on to Saturday. Saturday is going to be a massive day of events. We've got fan access in the morning, so expect some fan interviews. We've got JR's one-man show. We're going to try and get a few words from Jim Ross, get it recorded for you guys to listen to. I've just got in contact with Dave Meltzer. Hopefully get some comments from him about the weekend. He'll be at the JR show, and then we're going to cap it off with the Hall of Fame on Saturday night. So expect a Main Event Madness Wrestling Rep Break crossover there. Then Sunday, of course, WrestleMania weekend. It's all about WrestleMania. That's going to happen on Sunday nights, and expect a near 3-hour breakdown of the entire show from not just me, not just Eron, but Alfonso Marion. We've got John Curry four of us just shooting the breeze about what we've seen, talking about what's on television, talking about what it was like watching it live. And then we move on to Monday with a Monday show wrapping up the post-WrestleMania Raw. So it's exhausting just talking about it all in one go. It's going to be an exhausting week, but stay tuned to Wrestling's Rope Break via Twitter at WrestlingRBreak and on Facebook, facebook.com/Wrestling's Rope Break for all your information, news. Are you excited, Eron? I'm freaking pumped now just talking about it.
Like I said earlier, I'm more excited than a lot of people are, but I'm really excited for WrestleMania.
Yeah,
I really am.
There's so much going on for someone who's done it 3 times in a row. There's so much going on that weekend. For those fans who are always kind of umming and ahhing about going, you've got to do it at least one time if you're a true wrestling fan. There's so much happening. I can't wait. It's going to be a great weekend of events. So let's talk Quintessential Podcast for the week. Let's talk Jim Ross interviewing the one and only Terry Funk. And this was a great interview. Kind of very much an old man's perspective on the business, and there's so much to learn from history. I've always said that, and there should always be a blending of old school wrestling and new school wrestling, and we do see it sometimes. But these guys definitely talk about what's going on with a really great, knowledgeable background. And the first topic that I want to kind of bring up is babyfaces and heels in 2015. I think these guys really have a great discussion about, especially babyfaces and the worth of a babyface performer in current day pro wrestling. So let's have a listen to what Terry Funk and Jim Ross have to say about this subject.
One of the big problems with WWE is they have this goodbye guy, bad guy syndrome and a non-wrestling syndrome and all high spots. And they need to get away from that. I think that baby faces can draw. I think that heels can draw against each other. But the one thing, and I think that they believe in the heel situation, but they don't believe in the babyface situation. They don't believe in having anymore. It's the issue of the belt, the meaning of the belt itself. That's what I want more than anything else. That's where you have those wonderful babyface matches that we aren't having.
So this is Terry Funk there talking about babyfaces in 2015. Now, Eron, when it comes to like creating legitimate babyface draws in pro wrestling, is it still a necessity to tie their rise with winning a world championship anymore? Do you think that still has to be the pinnacle of taking a great babyface and making it even greater?
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think that only applies to the world title. I think that applies to all mid-card titles and world titles. I think that should be the main goal for any professional wrestler, is to eventually grab one of those titles, and obviously the world title. And it's become almost a non-issue now where, and that's one of the problems I've always had with the part-timers getting the title, is that for me, a title has to be on Raw every week. I miss the days. And not the days making it sound like it was so long ago, but when John Cena was the champion, and as much as people hate that, he was on Raw every week, fighting in the main event, and you saw the title every week.
Yep.
And that's something that's been lacking with Brock Lesnar, and we see him once every so often, and sometimes he forgets the title. So we forget sometimes that he is the world champion. It's rarely even referenced, and I think it's very tough to, in this day and age, especially the way that all titles have been treated, to give them value, because and Vince McMahon's even said it himself, they've almost become like props. It's just, oh, that guy's the champion this week, and when you, like, for example, Bad News Barrett, he loses every week. So what value does the Intercontinental Championship really have anymore if the champion loses every week? So I don't know. I think titles in general are just kind of a prop now.
I think when it comes to a World Heavyweight Championship or any kind of championship, enhancing a babyface's rise to that next level, I think you need to have a lot of different elements in play. And right now, you need to have a championship that's worth fighting for, that everyone fights for, that everyone recognizes as the pinnacle of the business. we don't have that anymore right now. I remember growing up watching Austin come out there nearly every second night and say, if you're not here in the WWE fighting for that WWE World Championship, you shouldn't even be here. And having Triple H cut those promos and say, my life is this World Heavyweight Championship. Look at his run at Evolution. It's all about holding that title. It's all about creating a faction that ensures that Triple H remained the World Heavyweight Champ. Why did the World Heavyweight Championship infuse and enhance Triple H's group and himself? Because it was more money, more women, fast lifestyle. And obviously he ripped off Ric Flair, but what a thing to rip off, a gimmick that completely enhanced the value of that championship. And when it comes to that means that when a heel like Triple H lost the championship to our upcoming babyface, the prestige and honor of that championship transcended to that babyface. If you look at Daniel Bryan last year winning the World Heavyweight Championship, it wasn't so much the prestige of having the championship. It was more just the storyline of being recognized as a top-tier talent. And it wasn't the championship itself. And I think it's one of those things where we need to take a lot of the old school and infuse it with the new school, and don't make putting over the history and the lineage of this championship just like a one-off gimmick that you throw in, like, say, at Night of Champions. This should be something that's promoted every single week, every single month, all the time.
Yeah. And like you said, the Daniel Bryan story was less about the title itself. It was more about him getting the title to prove to everyone that he is a top-tier talent.
Exactly.
And the same thing with Triple H and Evolution. Every aspect of that stable was about the title. It was about making sure Triple H was the champion, making sure he had the world title, making sure the group had all the titles. Remember, Randy Orton was the Intercontinental Champion, and Batista and Flair were the tag team champions for that short period of time when they all had the titles. So, and everything in that stable, it started with the world title and it ended with the world title. It started with Triple H getting a group so he can hold on to that world title, and it ended with him going through his own members of his own team or his own stable in Randy Orton and Batista for that world title. Everything about that stable was about the world title, and that's one of the lost arts of today.
And now we have a world champion that isn't on every single show. He takes the championship. He doesn't bring it back. And I understand the idea of keeping Brock Lesnar off television. It's smart. I'm always like ever since part-timers are bad. I like it. But when the World Heavyweight Championship is involved, it's a double-edged sword in that regard. But we're going to move on to the final segment that we really want to talk about here, and it's about high spots in pro wrestling these days. And Funk and JR kind of just deliberate on whether or not wrestlers these days are high spot crazy. Let's have a listen.
Well, kids get to be high spot crazy. They think the more, this is awesome chant, the better. And I would debate that to some degree, because sometimes fans cheer for something really stupid that somebody tries and they get lucky and they pull it off. Point being is that a lot of guys on the independent circuit are living and dying off high spots, and they're not working. They're not connecting all the dots.
Well, they're living and dying right now off the gimmicks.
Yeah.
Off of the chairs, the tables, and the ladders, and that was it was overdone up there in ECW 10 years ago. Ric Flair, what did we do? Put his head through a table. First time ever seen.
Yeah.
First time ever done. And he was out for 3 months. Now, of course, they saw that. They saw his head go through the table 50 times between the time that he stayed out.
Oh, hell yeah.
And the time he came back.
So the match that Terry Funk was alluding to was back in, I think, 1990. It was a rivalry between Terry Funk and Ric Flair that stemmed off Ric Flair's rivalry with Ricky Steamboat. Terry Funk, after his last final encounter with Steamboat, blindsided Ric Flair and put him through a table, being one of the first ever televised table spots on national television. And it kind of brings up this great point about how back then, something like an injury angle, like the tables, the ladders, and the chairs, and all that kind of brutality was sold to the nth degree, where you wouldn't see Ric Flair for 3 months, where it would always lead to an injury that would be played upon match after match, long after the fact. Now, talking about high spots and talking about selling and all that kind of stuff, like Eron, you see so much more independent wrestling than I do. So I have to ask, are JR and Funk onto something here? Is there an influx of talent that are too busy trying to get their stuff in more than get together and learn how to create a compelling wrestling match?
I think on the independent circuit there are, and I've been to almost every other month, Northeast Wrestling in the Connecticut area puts on a show, and the best matches are the ones that people are flying off turnbuckles and putting through tables and chairs, and those are usually the best matches that are well conceived. For me personally, and here's a completely separate issue, I think your top 5 wrestlers as a fan says a lot about the type of wrestling you like. For me, it's Triple H, it's Taker, it's Ric Flair, and those 3 guys have something in common. They all told a story when they were in the ring every single time. They didn't do these crazy spots, and that says a lot about what kind of wrestling I like. I like a story being told. I like symbolism. I like brawling. I like a certain type of wrestling. I'm not saying high spot wrestling is bad or anything like that. And if you like it, you're a dumb wrestling fan. But there is a disconnect there when all you see throughout the entire match is just these high spots and these moves that are just trying to get the fans to pop for you, instead of telling a nice long story, throwing in some symbolism, throwing in some great aspects of what I love about professional wrestling. And I don't know about you, but what about you? Do you feel like high spots have kind of almost taken over professional wrestling in a sense?
Yes, on the main stage, I think that's a definite reality right now. I mean, I see match after match on WWE television where the fans don't get into the match until the last few minutes because that's all the high spots. They're all the near falls. We've been conditioned over the last 5 years to start not really getting into match until the end. Now, a lot of what happens before that is, working on a body part, and smart wrestlers like Christian, he was always meticulous about this situation. He would always, sell a body part, and the body part would come into the end of the match, or it may come into a near fall, or be sold through the whole thing. We don't see that anymore. I think the stories that were told from the Takers, the Triple H's, and the Shawn Michaels is becoming less and less. Daniel Bryan is great on his own, and it can carry some wrestlers to a match where stories told to the nth degree, but guys that can match him on that main stage are becoming very, very hard to find. I watched 2 matches this week. I watched a Prince Puma match on Lucha Underground, and I watched the great hair versus hair match between Rockstar Spud and EC3 on Impact this week. Now, the Prince Puma match, for those who don't know, Prince Puma is Dragon Gate's Ricochet. He is one of the most athletically gifted performers I've seen in a long, long, long time. The things he can do in that ring are incredible. But I find myself disconnected from him because he's a great aerialist, but he's not a great storyteller. Yeah. A lot of what happens in the match is a spot, but the spots just leave you breathless, and that's the one thing you remember. Transfer this to the hair versus hair match. It was basic. It didn't have as many high spots, but it had raw, unadulterated emotion just flooding through it, and the rivalry that had built up to this final match in their story, the beef that they had between each other was just completely encapsulated in this match and was told through every single action. EC3 was an incredible prick throughout the match. He busted Spud open. Spud was the never say die babyface. That they had so many great hope spots that were thrown in there that you thought that EC3 was going to win. Obviously, EC3 won in the end and cut Spud's hair. And there's the difference here. I'm going to remember that match. Whereas Ricochet's matches, yeah, great. I remember spots, but I won't remember the match and what kind of story it told. So I think the business has stuff where it kind of supports what Funk and JR are talking about, but at the same time, there are still glimmers of hope.
Yeah, and one of the prime examples of this is the Young Bucks. A lot of people are on either two sides of the fence with the Young Bucks. Either they're tremendous and they love the Young Bucks, or they hate the Young Bucks because all their matches are just spot. And there's some kind of happy medium in between for me. I like some of the Young Bucks' match, but at the same time, I understand where people are coming from when they say, oh, the Young Bucks, they super kick a lot, and that makes the fans pop, and that's why they're over. Granted, that may be why they're over, but they're still good workers, and it says a lot about you as a wrestling fan if and it says what kind of wrestling, like I said before, you like. If you prefer to watch a Young Buck match where they're spots after spots, or you like to watch a nice drawn-out story like EC3 versus Spud, it's whatever you like. If that either or is great wrestling. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. When it comes to the Young Bucks, I think they're almost a hybrid kind of level of performer where they can have their spot fest crazy super kick party matches where they're in particular towns or wrestling for particular promotions, and they read the crowd and they read what they want to give them. And there's matches like the ROH pay-per-view that just happened in Las Vegas where they wrestle guys like Red Dragon and they just tell an amazing story. What a great match. That was a great match. And I think that's the Young Bucks are easily one of the greatest tag teams out there right now, and for that reason. So, there are glimmers of hope when it comes to high spots. Crazy. But again, the biggest dog in the yard being WWE has a long way to go in kind of giving us consistently great story-driven matches. Yeah. But the Video Vault visit, let's move straight into the final segment of the show. This is where we review a match from history and kind of compare it with 2015 eyes. And the match that we've picked this week is the World Heavyweight Championship match between Jeff Hardy and John Morrison from SmackDown 2009. For those who don't remember this great period of time, SmackDown really had two great eras. When I come to think about it, they had a great era in 2002 where the SmackDown 6 being Chris Benoit, Kurt Angle, Edge, Rey Mysterio, Chavo Guerrero, and Eddie Guerrero made a habit of just tearing it up on a pro wrestling level every single week, and pretty much made SmackDown the A show for a long time. It's incredible to think of considering how meaningless SmackDown is right now. But we had another renaissance period in 2009 where guys like Edge, Chris Jericho, Rey Mysterio, CM Punk, the Hart Dynasty, and Jeff Hardy started getting together with JR doing color commentary on SmackDown and just put together a 2-hour show every single week on Thursdays that just absolutely killed it. And we were just talking about matches that really meant something, that were building towards things and told great stories. These guys were having stellar matches, be it Chris Jericho versus Rey Mysterio for the Intercontinental Championship, be it Edge versus Jeff Hardy, triple threat matches for the World Championship. Watching the growth of CM Punk as one of the WWE's top heels, from a SmackDown perspective, again, that's unheard of. But when it comes down to John Morrison was the performer that was almost like Edge back in 2002. He was that young upstart. He broke away from his tag team with The Miz, and he was on his own for the first time in a long time. And he was a babyface, and he was the happy-go-lucky, great athletic babyface that was going to make it to the World Heavyweight Championship. That was his goal. And very much like Edge in 2002, he was put into situations where he was put over big. He had big wins. I think he beat CM Punk when CM Punk was the world champion 3 times on SmackDown, consistently clean wins all the time. He was taking guys like Edge and Jericho to the limit in matches where he lost, but he looked amazing. And the final payoff of this was a World Heavyweight Championship match on SmackDown, because back then SmackDown, those World Heavyweight Championship matches were earned by wins and losses, and wins and losses meant something. But the match itself, it's got high spots in it, but at the same time, there's a logic and an understanding and a story that's told every step of the way. And, great match wrestling to start. The high spots are smartly executed that lead to things and things that are played on when it comes down to the end of the match. You've got JR doing commentary. He was with Todd Grisham back then. I personally liked Todd Grisham. I didn't really have a problem with him doing play-by-play, and he kind of grew with JR's color commentary. just telling these amazing stories and complimenting what these guys did in the ring. And yeah, Morrison loses, but again, he took Jeff Hardy to the absolute limit and looked amazing in such a slick, solid match. And then at the end of this match, John Morrison, slightly moved to the back of the line, but then you had this incredible heel turn from CM Punk, turning on Jeff Hardy after all this time, showing his true colors and absolutely destroying Jeff Hardy, which would lead into probably one of the best storylines in SmackDown history between Jeff Hardy and CM Punk. So there's so much to like about this match. Aaron, what did you think?
This match kind of made me sad because it was two guys that still have amazing talent, and just two kind of all-time greats as far as today's wrestling goes, both being mismanaged and misused by WWE. Granted, Jeff Hardy kind of put himself in that kind of way where he kind of exiled himself from WWE with his habits, but both these guys, great wrestlers. John Morrison, I wasn't a huge fan of Morrison when he was in WWE as far as his main event push. I felt like his backstage segments were awkward and his mic skills weren't that great, but there's no doubt about his in-ring ability. He reminds me of almost a modern-day version of Adrian Neville, but a little bigger.
Yeah, that's
Neville
a good comparison.
Neville can kill it in the ring, but Neville's backstage stuff and promo work's a little awkward.
Yeah.
And this also made me sad because this is when SmackDown actually meant something, and it was actually some compelling TV. And like you said, in 2009 and 2008 they decided to kind of reboot SmackDown with JR moving over there, even Triple H moving over there as the WWE champion. And they kind of did a whole bunch of great stuff on SmackDown. So it just kind of this match almost made me sad in a way, because this is what SmackDown could be once again. But it's just, of course, a lack of dedication from WWE's part.
Yeah, just like if they just stuck with it and kept going and doing what they were doing, I guarantee that maybe the future might have been a bit different. But, at the same time, we had the Intercontinental Championship defended in the main event between guys, top-tier talent that used to be world champions like Rey Mysterio and Chris Jericho. And, the storylines where, like, Jericho wanted to take Rey Mysterio's mask because he found him as a hypocrite, who hides behind a mask, and they go, I'm going to take your dignity and I'm going to take your championship, and that led to some amazing matches for that championship on the main event of SmackDown. Plus, the Great American Bash match from 2009, which is the mask versus hair match from the Great American Bash 2009. If you haven't seen that match, I don't know what you're doing. It's one of my favorite matches in my top 10. And again, that's a byproduct of SmackDown. And I really feel like John Morrison versus Jeff Hardy for the World Championship, again, is one of those matches that is a byproduct of how great SmackDown was back then. But the match is up there on YouTube. Just obviously type in Jeff Hardy versus John Morrison World Heavyweight Championship SmackDown 2009, and you'll be able to find it. Now, before we wrap up today, we've had a lot of movement and a lot of changes from an admin point with Wrestling's Rope Break. A lot of changes in the way you can find our show, you can access our show. And Aaron, give us a lowdown. Well, apparently, we're going to be associated with Shoot Wrestling Network. Explain what the hell's going on there.
Yeah, Wrestling's Rope Break and a bunch of other prominent podcasts out there are kind of pulling together and joining Shoot Wrestling Network. Shoot Wrestling Network is a 24-hour live stream and on-demand website where you can go and listen to all the podcasts that they make available, like our podcast, another wrestling podcast. That's actually their name, by the way. Yeah. Another wrestling podcast, Marking Out, which is a great podcast that I personally listen to, and a bunch of other great stuff. So you can head over there, Shoot Wrestling Network.weebly.com is where you can find them. Follow them on Twitter at Shoot Network, and go to Facebook.com/Shoot Wrestling Network and give them a like.
Yeah, and they're going to be live streaming on a regular schedule every day. So a 24/7 scheduling service where you'll be hearing old episodes from us, current episodes, which is airing obviously at the moment, which you can access through there. It's a very interactive way of kind of just finding our site, as well as all the other opinions and perspectives from all the other podcasters that we are associated with. It's a different, great way of expanding the Main Event Madness network to include all these other great great podcasts out there. So definitely check them out. Shoot Wrestling Network. There's plenty of links up on the Facebook page, facebook.com/wrestlingsropebreak. And check out our Twitter. Follow us on Twitter at WrestlingRBreak for updates of when our shows are playing on the network. And yeah, definitely worth checking out. And also a big shout out to WrestleWork.com. Adam Anderson's got another project on the go at WrestleWork.com. It's one of those professional kind of sign up communities where you can join up and kind of share your own creative storylines, opinions on pro wrestling. It's almost like it is an online community where you can get together and just chat about wrestling. There's live chats, there's chat rooms, there's plenty of ways of checking out and talking about pro wrestling. So WrestleWork.com. Adam Anderson's doing a great job over there, and thanks for stopping by and checking out Wrestling's Rope Break. Okay, well, that's all we have time for tonight. Thank you so much for joining us wherever you may be all around the globe. And Aaron, I hope you have an amazing rest of your week. And dude, we're less than 2 weeks away from WrestleMania. Well,
we're almost there. I can't wait.
Well, actually, we're 2 weeks away from the WrestleMania weekend portion of Wrestling's Rope Break beginning. So that's a very exciting time. So much to look forward to. I have no idea how we're going to do 5 shows in 5 nights, but we'll somehow do it. So thanks again for listening, and we're going to catch you on the next Wrestling's Rope Break. We're going to go back to our usual time, Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern. If any changes happen, follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/wrestlingsropebreak and on Twitter at WrestlingRBreak for any updates of any changes. But for the meantime, next Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern, check us out there on Main Event Madness Radio. Good night, everybody.
Thanks for downloading Wrestling's Rope Break. Want to keep up to date with future episodes of the show? Answer our weekly questions, interact with Joel or Eron, or just go somewhere to discuss good old pro wrestling. It's easy. Start by following us on Twitter at WrestlingRBreak, then like us on Facebook at facebook.com/WrestlingsRopeBreak. Finally, bookmark and visit our website at www.wrestlingsropebreak.weebly.com. Wrestling's Rope Break. Everything pro wrestling by the count of 5. We will see you next week.